So in the last session, we were speaking about the Bean Lifecycle, right? And we went through few processes. We understood about the initialization method that we have inside the Bean Lifecycle. We understood about a factory interface called BeanFactoryPostProcessor. And also we have learned about something called BeanPostProcessor as well, okay? And in the previous sessions, we also learned about something called our interfaces, okay? And we also know that there is something called the disposable bean, or the destroy method is also there in our bean lifecycle, and that will be called when the container will be closed. So before we switch to our next topic, let's just try to bring everything together, and whatever we have done so far in this week, let's try to see, if you can, bring all of them together in the session. Okay, so the first thing that I'll be doing right now, I will be basically copy pasting the last project, and I'm gonna say life cycle, pulling it all together. Okay, just to make sure that we understood everything that we have done so far. So I will not be touching the last session. I think the last session is all about the BeanPostProcessor. Let's just get started with this one, this project, and let's just try to introduce some more things and just see the complete flow in action. Okay, so far what we have done, I think we had a bean called laptop, and the laptop bean implements the initializing bean, and is overrides the afterproperty set method. And also the laptop bean has a dependency for battery. Battery is a component and which has a charge method. Okay, and the laptop has a dependency of battery because one of its API method, which is charge laptop right here, which basically uses the battery and call the charge method of the battery on top of this variable. Perfect. It has a constructor which says laptop is initializing. It is injecting this battery object, like the battery object is being used here inside the charge laptop method. And before we use the charge method, I think we have initialized the battery using this auto word annotation, using this setter. So this is a setter injection that we have done. And also we have a method called run at start with the post construct annotation. And this is also going to come in picture once the laptop object is instantiated through the constructor and also the dependency get injected. Then the post construct will come into the picture. Then the initializing bean after property set will come into the picture. And then if you have an init method, wherever you define the bean, let's say where is laptop bean defined, the laptop bean is defined here inside the config class maybe, and you can see your laptop config class is here, laptop config bean definition is here, and whenever you're creating the bean definition, you have specified the init method using this one, and obviously you have a method called init method inside the laptop class, which is this one. And I think this is the method that you have, right? Property set, one of the init method, this is the API method, and this is basically run at start like a post construct method, a setter injection, and a constructor with a dependency, right? And maybe a couple of bean we have created in the last session. One is called custom BeanFactoryPostProcessor, which is going to come before the bean get initialized and just after the application context is loading the configuration file, and just after the bean definition get created. If you want to alter the bean definition in somehow, you can use the custom BeanFactoryPostProcessor, where you'll be having access to BeanFactory, from where you can just get the definition and can alter it. And then once the beans get created and initialized, and once the dependency has set, then the custom BeanPostProcessor will come into the picture. And I think it has a couple of methods called postprocess before initialization. This method will be called before the after property set or any of the initialization method called, like just after the bean gets created and just after the property being set through the setter or the constructor, this method will come into the picture, and post process after initialization will come into the picture once all your property set or after property set or initializing bean or any init method, if it is there, once that is invoked, then post process after initialization will come into the picture. The main difference that we have discussed about the BeanFactoryPostProcessor is that the BeanFactoryPostProcessor, here we are getting the BeanFactory object, we are accessing the definition of the bean and changing the definition of the bean before the bean gets created. And a BeanPostProcessor, as the name suggests, we are post-processing the bean once it is created, and here we are getting access to the actual bean object right here. Okay, so I think this is good. So let's just go to our app.java, and I think here we are just creating the container out of our config file called appconfig. In the appconfig file, in the last session, we have initialized the laptop. We have a couple of static methods for custom BeanPostProcessor and custom BeanFactoryPostProcessor. So out of all this bean that we have defined, our application config will be loaded and will be initialized right here in the line number 10. And then I think we are just calling the API method called charge laptop of the laptop class, where it is just going to say battery.charge. And if I go inside the charge method, it's just going to say charging. Okay, so let's just see if everything works fine so far. Do run as Java application, and yeah, so this is my laptop bean thing, and these are the thing that we have done. These are because these loggers are coming from custom bean post processor. So as I said, the custom bean post processor processor before initialization and after initialization, before initialization and after initialization, it will work for all the bean. As you can see, this is for your laptop bean, but you also have some more beans here. So maybe I'll go to the custom bean post processor, because this will be invoked for every bean. And I think I have a bean called laptop, I have a bean called battery, I have a bean called app config. As I said, app config is also a special type of a bean because we are annotating it with a marker called add configuration, and add configuration is embedded with an annotation called component. So now what I'm going to do right now, just to see it, is just to give me a proper impression, I'll go over here and I will just print, I think I'm getting the bean name here. I'm just going to print the bean name, or maybe the bean name I can print it over here like this. And for the after initialization method also, let me just print the bean name so that you can just get a clarity that the things that you're seeing in the logger is because of this. Okay, let me just run this. Okay, now you can see first the BeanFactoryPostProcessor get called, and then the custom BeanPostProcessor before initialization method is getting called for appconfig. After initialization method is getting called for appconfig. For appconfig class, we don't have any constructor, no loggers. So for laptop, the way you are getting the things, for appconfig, you are not going to get the thing. Okay, and this is some cglib extension of the appconfig. We'll come into that. And then also the BeanPostProcessor is getting executed for battery, the battery thing over here as well. Okay, so let's just do one thing. Let's just print the bean name here. I don't want to print the bean, the complete bean. You can see the bean reference is getting printed if I'm printing the bean for after initialization method, and here only the bean name is getting printed. Here the bean object is getting printed, right? Battery at the rate something. Just because I have printed the bean by mistake here, I should have printing the bean name here. But I just want to print the bean name for my laptop bean. For all the other beans like battery or app config, I don't want this bean post processor to get invoked, so that for one bean, if I can see the life cycle, I can see the life cycle for all the other beans as well, because I know the life cycle will happen for the bean, for every bean, before it get delivered to us and before we use any of the API method. So let's just do one thing. Let's this one, the custom bean post processor, let's just print this information only when the bean is laptop. Okay, so what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna have a check, the equals check over here, and I'm gonna say the bean name only if it is laptop. Just print this line, otherwise don't print it for this bunch of lines I just want to ignore. for the app config and the battery, I only want to print it for the laptop. So I can use like, if bean name dot equals is equal to my laptop bean default name will be laptop, right? Then only I want to print this. You can either use this equals method, or there is another one which came in Java 8 or something. You can just use the objects class equals method like this, equals, and just give this name you want to compare. If this name matches with laptop, my actual bean name, I think that is laptop, then only you print this. Okay, and I'll do the same for the other method here as well. Paste it, and I'm gonna say I'm wrap it off like this. Okay, so now let's just go to my app config, and this line will only be printed for my laptop bean, and for all other beans like battery and all the other beans that I have, I just want to skip the BeanPostProcessor, and it will be invoked for all the beans which are available. So I'll go to my app.java, and right now let me just run this one more time. I just want to get rid of those unnecessary logs which are coming in my console previously. Right now, first, the BeanFactoryPostProcessor is getting called. It's very simple, because first the definition is getting loaded, the config file is getting loaded, and right after the config file gets loaded, the BeanFactoryPostProcessor comes into the picture. Then the bean is getting created using the constructor, the laptop bean. Then the laptop property is getting set, whatever dependency it has. So the setter methods are getting called. Then the post construct method get called. Then after property set method get called. Okay, one second. I think I'm also not getting the BeanPostProcessor for for my laptop bean, because the BeanPostProcessor should be invoked for my laptop bean as well, isn't it? So what is my laptop bean name? It is saying
capital. Capital? L is capital.
Okay, let me just check there. App config, oh, that's the problem. Let's make it small. Okay, this is by default taking the bean name, right? L is capital. I'm sorry. That's why you can see the bean name was kept for my laptop bean as well. So I'll go to my app.java one more time, right click, run as Java application, and yeah, there we go. Okay, right after the bean is getting created, property being set, you can see my custom bean post processor. My bean post processor is in action to post process the bean just after it initialized. Okay, and you can see post process before initialization method called. So now before the post construct, after property set from initializing bean, or the custom init method that you have, before that the BeanPostProcessor method called, and then the after this method got invoked, all the initialization method, the post process after initialization get called, then the bean gets delivered to me. So after all the steps happens that we are talking about last session, once all these things happens, then the bean will be delivered to me. So right now all my steps has been happened. So I can just click an arrow kind of a thing. Let me just put it over here and just lower down it, just increase the thing and put it over here. Now you can see once all this step is done, then there is a bean object which has been given to me. Let's say this is a bean which is given to me just after all the things has been completed. So you can see once all the things has been completed, this bean is given to me, and then I'm taking the bean using the getBean method right here, and then I'm just, once I get the bean, I'm just calling the API methods right here. Okay, I hope this is making sense. But the steps that we have missed, if I'm not wrong, I think Vijay was asking me maybe a couple of sessions before about the hour interface that you have learned throughout the session. Okay, when those things will come into the picture. Okay, let's say if your laptop bean is right now basically using the hour interface. For an example, it is using bean name hour. Okay, so bean name hour has a method which is gonna get you the bean name, right? So if I'm gonna put it over here, the set bean name method will be here. That's gonna get you the bean name. I don't want to go into the technical details of this lesson. I have already covered it. I just want to print this bean name hour got called. Okay, Control C, Control V, Control S, and let me put a hash symbol over here so that I can differentiate my hour method right now. So what do you think? When where it'll come in the life cycle? Okay, so the hour method will be given to you after the initialization or before the initialization? When the hour callback will happen? When this set bean method will be called? After the bean get initialized or before the bean get initialized? What do you think? If you remember, like from the last session, anybody remember the thing? Where do you feel the hour will come? The hour interface, like we have spoke about different hour interfaces, right? Like bean name hour, bean factory hour, context application context hour, resource loader hour, and I told you they will be invoked right after the bean will be created. Okay, so after the initialization, after the property will be set, maybe somewhere here the hour will come into the picture, but before the bean post processor, before the post construct method, or after the post construct method, that's something that we should see, like where it is coming. So as I said, all the hour method also has a flow, like they execute one after another. They also have follow certain chain, like they will go in that chain only. So let's just see, like if I'll go to the app.java and let's see like where it is coming. So look at that. After the bean get initialized and after like the property gets set, before the bean post processor come into the picture, hour came first. So all your hour method will be invoked right after the bean initialization and right before the bean post processor, before initialization method, and right before all your property set or all your post construct method and all these things ran before that only this will come. And like bean name hour will be invoked first compared to all the hour methods that you have. So if you're going to have some more hour method in your laptop class, let's say if I'll go to the laptop class and let's say I have a couple more hour interface, let's say bean name hour, and also I have, let's say what hour I have, bean factory hour, I have bean factory hour. In the bean factory hour interface, I have to override one more method, which is going to get me the bean factory object if I want to do something with it, but I will not do anything right now. I will just print it, what kind of thing I can do with bean factory. We have already spoke about it, don't want to get into that right now. Let's say bean factory hour, I'll copy the interface name, go to here, paste it here, Control S. Now look at that. I think after bean name hour, bean factory hour will come. Let's run our program and let's see. Okay, look at that, bean name hour, bean factory hour come back to back. So bean name hour execute first, then the bean factory hour. And as I said, by this time the bean factory has already been created. Okay, so bean factory has already been created before the bean, like whenever you're creating the application context out of the configuration file, that time only the bean factory is getting created. So don't worry like how the bean factory is getting created before the bean name hour. Okay, because the bean factory hour is here, is already, the bean is initialized, the bean is inside the container. So by the time container is already created, so don't worry about it. Okay, the bean name hour and bean factory hour is here. Then you can just go and test yourself in your free time today. You can just, whatever the hour interface you have learned, let's say application context hour, we also have one more, right? Application context hour, this is going to get me the application context object. So you, whatever the hour interface you have learned, just put it over here and just keep some logger here and just see the chain. Right now you understand before the bean post processor, the hour will come, right? So that's something that I want to say, and that's something that you should understand whenever somebody is asking you about the lifecycle thing. Okay, now if I'll run this again, now you can see after bean factory hour, my application context hour will be here. Okay, so right after the bean initialize and the property being set, these things are getting called, right? The hour interface are getting called. Okay, that's it. And one more thing, like this is like this, here your API method is getting called, right? So before your API method is getting called here, all these things are happening before the bean has given to you or delivered to the developer in order to get it used. So by the time here the bean is ready to use, right here the bean is ready to use, but before the bean is ready to use, all these steps are going into this, right? Maybe if I can adjust the hour interface here, bean definition, and if I can adjust the hour interface here, I think this is gonna get you a proper picture. BeanPostProcessor, then the bean is initialized, then the bean property will be set, and you know the hour interface callback is happening here. So maybe I will just copy this and paste it, and here I can say, maybe I'll give a different you know, color, and I'm gonna say hour interface callback. Okay, and all the hour interface will have, like, you know, there are certain, you know, order. As I said, first bean name hour, then bean factory hour, then application context hour. Like, a lot of things are there, so we don't have to get worry much about the way the order they are executing. But, like, you know, just understand this one is also inside it. Okay, so this is the complete flow, the way your, you know, application is, like, you know, handling your bean creation, and before the bean is getting back to you to use, or before the bean is ready to use, all the steps are happening. Okay, one last thing here, I will just say the destroy method we haven't implemented here. So if you say your laptop is also having the destroy method, let's do a Control-Shift-O because I see unnecessary imports here. So one last thing, let's just, you know, like, whenever the container will be closed, the destroy method also will be called. So just, this is the last thing. I will just have some destroy callbacks here. Let's just put a comment called destroy, and let's just stretch out a little bit so that this code will go up and it will be easier for me to type. I'll just say public void destroy, let's say destroy1, and let's say this is a destroy method that I want to have this annotation called you know, destroy, pre-destroy, before your application container destroyed. You also will be destroying the bean that is created right here. You want to destroy it. So whenever this bean will be destroyed, you can call this method if you want to free up some resources, if you want to get rid of some connections that you have opened in this class, if you want to do any kind of stuff that you have done in this class which need closure, or which need free up memory spaces, or any kind of resource closing thing. If you want to do it over here, do it right here using this annotation. This is the best annotation, as I said. You guys can go ahead because you are not tightly coupling this one with Spring. So I'm gonna just say this is out, you know, destroy1 called, which uses, and I'm gonna be pasting this annotation just for my clarity so that you can see the flow. And then let's say I will be basically using one more interface here. This is going to be disposable bean, and also this is going to be having a destroy method. So unimplemented method I'll be adding here. I need to override this method, and let me just copy this out just to see the flow. Control C, because this is also a way of we can invoke the destroy method as a callback method, and I can say a destroy method called which uses disposable bean, or let's say dispo bean. Okay, there we go. So this is another way, and also another way is, like, you know, you can just use public void, let's say another method, let's say my own destroy method, and let's say this is like, I'm gonna having another sysout here, and say my own destroy method get called, and it will be called through the bean init, bean destroy property. Okay, so let's go to the let's copy the method name. Let's go to our application config. Just the way you are specifying the init method, just specify the destroy method right here like this, and there you go, you are done. So let's just try to go to the app.java. Let's run this. It will not work. All your destroy methods are not getting called here. Why? Anybody? How can I make it call over here? How the destroy method will be called here? Why the destroy method are not getting called here? Look at the code. Why?
Because you haven't closed the session.
Exactly. I haven't closed the container, right? So I'll say container dot close, and that's it. Okay, now all your destroy method will be closed. So there you go. So after the API method end, and whenever your container you are closing, okay, so let's say I'm just put a breakpoint, like another sys out here, and I'll say container shutting down. Okay, and whenever the container is shutting down, I will invoke a close method. This is not the best practice. The best practice will be write a shutdown hook instead of writing a close, because if there is any exception goes here, then this line will not be invoked. So make sure whenever you're closing the container, you actually don't have to take care of the closing the container if you're working on a web application. But yeah, if it is a standalone application, just write a shutdown hook rather than a close. But yeah, this is the Spring way of closing the container. So let's just use this, and you can say container shutting down, and the destroy methods are here. So don't just don't remove the destroy method from your explanation, or whenever you are debugging something, or whenever you are explaining to some interviewer, or maybe like for your colleagues or whomever you are explaining, or whenever you are understanding, don't remove the destroy method from the lifecycle. So this is the entire Bean lifecycle that we have. So yeah, so that's the flow. So the destroy method will come here. I'll just adjust it right here by writing the destroy callback. Let's say I'll just say destroy, and I'll put this image in your repository as well. So right after the bean got created, maybe I will just control C, control B. This bean will be given to use, and this bean, whenever the container shuts down, I'll put like if I have something called like this, and I'll just put it in red. And if I'm gonna say stop the container, whenever it stop, okay, then the destroy is getting called, right? Put it over here, stop, and I think this image is going to make sense right now. Control B, and whenever the container will stop, the destroy callback will happen. So just tell me, guys, everything making sense here right now? Just confirm it quickly so that I can move to the next topic.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Perfect.
Yes, sir, Vilash.
Let me have some.
Yeah, one question.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, the BeanFactoryPostProcessor is needed if we it's needed for the custom if we wanted to do something extra than the default thing. If we don't need, then no need to
no need
to do it.
Exactly, Lipika. Just want you guys to let you guys know that this is there. Okay, you ignore it. Like most of the time, these things you will not be using at a default. Maybe I will be still using this because this is, I find it pretty handy. But BeanPostProcessor, I use it very rarely. Okay, but Spring use it internally in order to discover annotation like post construct, pre-destroy. That will be discovered using this kind of thing. The way your auto wearing annotation works internally, Spring uses a post processor. The way the required annotation gets used internally, Spring uses use this post processor to create hooks to get into the created bean of yours and checks what are the candidates which are eligible for auto wearing or annotated with @AutoWear annotation. The way Spring detects it internally by using this BeanPostProcessor. But I as a developer used, I think I don't remember like when I used it last time. I might have used it for a few times, but yeah, very rarely, guys. Very rarely you'll be using this. Okay. So yeah, but the our method sometime is very useful. But yeah, if you want to avoid it, just use like some annotations, some called CDI annotation. Don't want to go into that. So I'll just introduce you to the CDI annotations so that you can loosely couple your application from Spring, because after 20 years, right now you guys are, I'm hearing all of you are working on migration projects, right? You are migrating the project like from Struts to Spring, or maybe some other thing to other thing, right? Because your application has been developed way back, right? And right now Spring is trending. Spring will be there for at least 10 years from now, or at least 20 years from now. And after that, what? After that, some new thing will come and that will overtake. So write your applications which will not be tightly coupled. And for that, Java has some guidelines. Like if you're gonna write like this, whatever framework will come in future, they will be written like this. They have to also follow guideline, so your application will not be impacted and the migration will be easy. So don't too much tightly couple your application by writing or implementing all these kind of interfaces, which are going to be very heavy lifting, and they are going to be very tightly coupled with the framework. Okay, so yeah, anyhow, I'll be just giving you some more walkthrough for that once we have some more understanding. But yeah, now let's just go to the next one. So how much time I have? I have 25 minutes. Okay, if I have 20.
One last question.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, if in the interview or somewhere they ask us Bean Lifecycle, so we will do we need to do all this custom factory, or we'll just go for the simple one? Then if they will ask more, then
Lipika, it will be always better if you guys can say this. See, normally when I ask these questions in the interview, or when I have basically given interview for a junior developer position, I remember I only told I remember back in 14 or something, I just told, okay, I have a post construct, I have I have a property set method. You have that time you have initializing Bean, right? I said a property set method will be called, then this will do all the prep work, then the Bean will be delivered to you, then the destroy method will be called whenever you are closing or shutting down the container. I'm ignoring all this thing that time because I didn't have any idea. They didn't tell me anything because I was applying for a junior developer role. But let's say if I have 3 plus 4 plus 5 plus 7 plus 10 plus years of experience, then obviously they will be expecting this guy should have dipped down into the Spring framework and would have find out every glory details the way the Bean is getting created. Because as a developer, they want you to be very strong with the foundation, because you are applying for a job which is needing the Spring as a expertise, right? So obviously telling all these things will really help. You don't have to go in very detail, Lipika, but whenever somebody, let's say you are saying, okay, BeanFactoryPostProcessor will come, then the initialization will happen, then the BeanPostProcessor will come. See, if I'm taking interview, I always will ask you, okay, then tell me what is the difference between BeanFactory and the BeanFactoryPostProcessor, BeanFactoryPostProcessor and BeanPostProcessor. Then you go ahead and explain them like, okay, this is the difference. If I'm not interested to hear, then don't explain. So make it very simple, like just go with the flow. Otherwise, just explain them if they want a detailed explanation, right? Keep your answers short at first and see if the interviewer is interested to hear more. But I think most of the time they will be interested to hear more if you are explaining all these things in glory detail, because they want to even what I do. A lot of time I ask something and I even I got out of that question from my mind already, I was not in touch or something, and I also forget answer. If somebody is explaining really good in interview, I ask him more, like, okay, to explain this thing and this thing, because I wanted to learn from him, how he is explaining. Maybe if he has done some more research or something. So always people will be keen to hear from you, I think most of the interviewer. So yeah, please explain whenever they will be they are actually interested to hear more. Okay, otherwise keep it very short, go just step by step and just wrap it up within 2 minutes or 3 minutes. But yeah, we have taken 3 hours to understand all these things. I think you guys are good right now. Perfect.
Yeah, thank you. Yes.
All right, so the next thing, I think you guys understood this Bean, this Bean annotation. I think there's some more thing here, like AutoWare candidate. Destroy method you understood, init method you understood, name I think you understood, you can give a name, value is alias. I think example would have been better. Okay, I'll do one thing. Okay, I'll just go a little bit deep with this Bean annotation and then we will close it. Okay.